And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Battle Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man who's been sleepless in Seattle, Ruth by choice. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right. We got the 6 a.m. flight home coming up this morning, so it's going to be an early one, but I am excited to get back home. And then Friday, we got the home opener at Comerica Park.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing, Cody. Like, I, for one, am over the West Coast thing. Like, I've had enough. I've had enough of it.
You're not even in the Eastern time zone like the majority of our listeners.
True. And kudos to them. We're doing this Wednesday night, publish obviously Thursday. Normally we would publish on Wednesday, but like that was just a late night. Casey Mize had himself an outing, got to get the story up, and I was like, you know what? Let's just talk about the series once it's a wrap. And so like this is just kind of us making it up as we go, as we adjust to this new schedule, a lot of weird things, the West Coast trip, all that stuff. And if you're watching on YouTube, which I hope you are, I'm in my softball uniform right now. I told my guys, we were down by 9 runs. I was like, if we come back and win this game, I'm doing the podcast in the uniform. So I got to make good on my end of the bargain. So please subscribe on YouTube if you have not already. All right. I would classify, Cody, these 3 games at Seattle as kind of like a return to normalcy, almost chalky. Like you felt good going in. We talked about this based on just like their approach at the plate and some bad luck stuff and and it's the Dodgers, all right. And the Mariners got some dudes on there, but they're not the Dodgers. And so like you felt kind of good. But then you saw it kind of happen. Guys who had not done anything at the plate in Los Angeles found themselves in Seattle with some key hits, and especially like to start the series off with the offensive bombardment there on Monday night. So disappointing the way you lose on Wednesday, but overall I feel like the guys got to be feeling pretty good finally going back home to play some baseball.
Yeah, I mean, this was a tough opening road trip. That's the reality. The Dodgers obviously are what they are, and then the Mariners have one of the tougher pitching staffs in baseball. I think to go 2-4 on this road trip, I kind of always thought like that is maybe almost like what you should expect. You should feel good. You want to avoid being 0-6 or 1-5. If you're 3-3, you should be kind of over the moon. 2-4, you played pretty good baseball in all 6 games, even if there were some very costly mistakes in your losses. You were right there. Every time you won your first series of the year in Seattle. I think the Tigers are coming home with good vibes. The Gritty Tigers thing is alive and well. They played 27 outs on Wednesday, even if it was a very winnable game for them. They were in it, bases loaded in the 9th. A lot of things to clean up, but you're also down 3 key players right now. That's probably important to keep in mind. You kind of got to keep yourself treading water until you get healthy. A good way to do that is probably to play the Chicago White Sox, who you're about to see for the next few days.
Right. And I would say as much as answers can be had 6 games into a season, I do kind of feel, and I said this last time, but 3 more games, I still feel that way. Like the whole Gritty Tigers thing, I've had a fear for a while that is like, is this like a sustainable sort of like mantra to have? Like, a lot of things went right and, it was all great, but does that really carry over year to year? I don't even want to say it carries over, but I would say that the ethos and the makeup and like the whole, I would say like practicing what they preach aspect of the Gritty Tig stuff is definitely in play here. And you would say that they're doing this with not their best hand. It is obviously the case there. The Torres injury we'll talk about here in a second. But I thought that if you were like everything you were kind of looking for or realistically expecting kind of played out in Seattle. And that started with the bats going a little bit and also started with Jackson Jobe looking like, I would say kind of like a highlight reel, but not complete pitcher. Because like if you were to just kind of look at the ninja stuff for Jackson Jobe, it was like, bam, like it's all right there. But the sequencing, the fastball command particularly, ended up shortening his night. He goes 4 innings. He has 3 Ks, 4 walks, 3 earned runs, and it just kind of gave you the whole Jackson Jobe experience, even though it was shorter than you would ideally like. But like your impressions of Jackson Jobe for the first time in the major leagues starting a game.
Yeah, I think in one way you could almost walk away. It's the kid's first major league start, and it's like, well, you could almost walk away a little bit frustrated because he did repeat some of the same mistakes we saw at times last year, even in the minor leagues, and we saw kind of for the better part of spring, and then we saw it in his first start, which was mostly just poor location, a very hittable fastball, not quite able to he had 10 whiffs, but not really able to punch guys out at the rate you would like for a prospect of his caliber. At the same time, it was his first career major league start. The stuff is special. We're going to see increasing data all year, I think, that backs that up. Early on, his Stuff Plus graded out really well, ranks among the top 11 pitchers in baseball as of Wednesday night. And it's pretty funny. You can also look at Location Plus, and he is easily the worst of those top 11. But raw stuff, he's up there with Tarik Skubal, with Paul Skeens, with Garrett Crochet. You have to think in time that Location is going to get better. The fastball, I think, is in a way a little bit the big mystery with Jackson Jobe right now, because it has all the characteristics of a plus fastball, but it's getting hit hard. I think maybe there's a simple explanation. And I know the Mariners broadcast, there's speculation, could he have been tipping pitches? I don't know, maybe. I think there's a simple explanation. He's throwing it down the middle. He has been doing that kind of for a while now, but he's going to learn. He's going to grow. He's going to get better. I don't think we were ever expecting perfection from him from the jump. And I don't know that I have a ton. I know none of that really sounds new because it's not, but I don't really have a ton more to say about it than that.
Like I will add this, and does this sound like an excuse? I put this on X, but I think it's part of the human nature, especially someone who's never gone through it before like this, is that like it's hard to be the same kind, not level, but the same kind of locked in when you go out there after 7 minutes and it's 0-0, 3 up, 3 down, you coming on, and you're kind of like on time with your preparation. Whereas like it's awesome that the team got a 6 spot, to a cushion, but he's also in the dugout longer than he probably will the rest of the year, waiting to go out there. So it's like it's not an excuse, but I just think that's part of the element of Jackson Jobe's first start. It is an outlier of a routine that he went through that day. It's not an excuse, but I think it's part of it. It's also hard. Again, it's just a human nature thing. You're up 6-0. How do you not think about the fact that you're up 6-0 when you go up there? You know what I mean? Like I just think that's an element. It's an element. That's all.
I think that's totally fair. I think when you envision your first career major league start, you probably don't envision staying in the dugout for 20 minutes. And then, he said he had to go down in the batting cage and run and throw to stay loose. That's not, something you're thinking about when the butterflies are floating around in the stomach and when you're a little bit nervous and antsy to get out there. Yeah, I did no idea if that made a difference, but it's certainly a little bit an abnormal part of the routine.
Yeah. And we're going to get to probably the most encouraging thing that happened in Seattle. But first, a word from FanDuel Sports Network.
Take me out to my TV on FanDuel Sports Network. Yeah. Watch me some dingers and RBIs. I'm just glad they have my local team live for its root for the Tigers on FanDuel Sports Network. Tigers games, announcers, and more Tigers games that I mentioned. They have the Tigers. Stream now.
There you go. Reminder, you can do this with code baseball30, and that is without the local blackouts. Big deal there. All right. I don't know if Casey Mize was blackout during his game, but he was in the zone. If he obviously you talked to him, and Casey Mize is a very thoughtful person, but if he gave you nothing quote wise, Cody, I don't know if I would blame him because he was pretty dialed in. He like in the zone, like all these like sports cliches. He comes out there, gives up a base hit. And that was pretty much that. That was pretty much that for Casey Mize. He ends up with 5.2, like I said, 1 hit and 6 Ks, 3 walks, and looked like the guy that, and I'll bring it up again, the whole Casey Mize apologist thing. Like victory for the Casey Mize apologists out there in Seattle, because he looked like a dude. It's like, really, this is your number 5? This is your number 5 right here, you know. So it was a continuation of everything that we had kind of seen and hoped would manifest itself when the games counted. And so, like, I'm just gonna give this to you because you talked to him, you saw it live. I mean, he was impressive as hell.
Yeah, there is zero doubt about that. It, in a way, reminded me of talking to Spencer Torkelson in LA. Like, just the level of confidence was real, and I think we've heard Casey talk like that, you know, in his earlier days more than maybe we had Spencer. Casey can have that air about him when things are going right, and things are going right for him. They did all spring, and certainly his first start, you could not have asked for anything more. I think that's the big question. Was this the best outing of his entire career? Which seems like a long time. But Kieran, I have a question. Do you know how many wins are a dumb stat? Do you know how many wins Casey Mize has in the major leagues?
I don't. If I were to guess, I'm gonna say 27.
10. 10. That's in a way how little we have seen of Casey Mize, how little we have seen of Casey Mize as best. Obviously, wins don't reflect everything, but 10. I was stunned when I saw that. It was only
finally got double digits. He finally got double digits.
Entire career. By game score, this grades out as the 3rd best outing of his major league career. Second came in Houston in 2021. I remember that outing. And the best outing of his career was against the Mariners in 2021. He went, I think, 7 2/3 in that game. I barely remember that game. And I know why. It's because the next day was Spencer Turnbull's no-hitter. So it's kind of easy to forget that. That outing in Houston, Mize went 7. He was dominant. What I remember about that is how weird his splitter was. In a way, it was kind of the beginning of the, you know, the bottom falling out, because the bottom was not falling out of that pitch. It wasn't dropping. It wasn't driving. He was throwing it like a changeup, and he got a ton of weak contact and a ton of ground balls on it. But he was using it in a way we had never seen. He was, it wasn't getting the same action. And I remember asking that night, like trying to get to the bottom of like what was going on. Was this actually a strategic change? Come to find out, you know, I don't think so. Casey's talked about it a little bit last year. He talked about it with me again this week after his outing, just saying in the past, his body was not allowing him to move in a way where he could execute his splitter. He had the back pain that caused pain that shot down his leg. He couldn't brace himself. And as a result of that, he couldn't really get on top of that pitch. If you want to see what Casey Mize is doing differently, just go to his Baseball Savant page. His arm angle has increased. It's way more over the top. It was like 35-ish degrees 2 years ago. Came back from the surgery. It was higher last year, 43 degrees. And after one start, the average arm angle was 45 degrees. So he's literally throwing from a more over-the-top slot, getting on top of the baseball more. The splitter had some of the best action we have seen. It was Casey. He's a perfectionist, so he's like, yeah, it wasn't very good to righties. And he was right. All the whiffs came against left-handed batters. But I think just having that in his back pocket changed everything else about his arsenal. We've seen the sliders be good at times. His newer slider, the depthier one, was pretty good. The fastball was very good. And having the splitter, suddenly he had 3+ real pitches. He was commanding the fastball. It was completely a different pitcher than we have seen. There were times we've been critical of Casey Mize. It was like, man, it's just the same thing outing after outing, and you know it's in there, but it's just not clicking. It clicked, and it's been clicking, and very interesting to think about what it could be like if he's able to continue to pitch like that.
Does he come? I feel like he kind of comes out, and we'll talk about Skubal here in a second. I feel like he comes out of this first stretch like you feel the best about the trajectory of Casey Mize. Like Skubal's going to Skubal, and we'll talk about him in a second. But there's an like if you're a Tigers team that kind of figures to be in the mix with a lot of others, and when playoff is your goal, when winning the division is your goal, I'm thinking about all these small things that cost them a game. You know what I mean? And that happened today too. But like, if you're looking at stuff that could kind of boost the trajectory of the team, Casey Mize unlocking something might be one of those things that like puts them over the top, like whatever that top is, but like over the top, because that's a projection that in November, December, January, February, you're like, I don't know if we can really sketch that into this team's win output in the season. Now we can't. Now we can now I think it's fair to put like an expectation that he can be a certain level of pitcher, because this calendar year, that's all he's done. And am I overreacting to one start? I don't know, maybe, but it's because it's manifested for these past several months, and then all that work that we didn't see, and therefore we couldn't talk about. So if there's the best thing to feel good about starting 2-4, seeing that version of Mize, like that's literally a difference maker for your team. A guy who was not guaranteed a spot in the starting rotation. So I think that's worth noting.
I know. I'm like encouraged with what I've seen from Spencer Torkelson, but like trying to kind of temper, let's continue to see it. He deserves a ton of praise for what he's done, but let's continue to see it. I'm trying to temper myself with Mize, but I'm having a harder time. Like especially after seeing it translate in the regular season, especially after seeing the splitter moving like it was. I'm a believer.
Just like the monkeys. All right. So let's go to Skubal here for a second. We haven't really like talked about him since opening day. And like we would say he was not on his A game opening day. Fair to say. And then today, like he was still like he started out that game not in Skubal fashion. And these are high bars, but it's the reigning Cy Young. It's the odds-on favorite for the Cy Young. We're doing high bars here. I thought today he gets the L, but I thought today he got his groove back a little bit. He ends up going just under 6. He has the 8 strikeouts. What was it, 4 in a row at one point toward the end there? He has the 3 earned runs on a mistake, but also a situation that he should not have been in as well. My favorite expressions, both things can be true. But Skubal, like I think when he came out of the game, throw, but it was kind of a heavy toss of his glove and not a gentle toss of his hat. He was not happy, but I think if we're being fair here, I feel pretty good about his next start. I might take the over on the strikeouts on his next start, because I think he's going to be dialed in because he looked like last year's Skubal there for the majority of this game.
Yeah, a couple costly walks, a couple mislocations that got hammered. Obviously, those, as tough as it is to say, those are things he did not do very often last year. In a way, his first 2 outings are a little bit of a reminder that, like, wait, no, baseball is really hard. We kind of got accustomed to Skubal just dominating every time out. There are going to be days where he's only okay. Also, the alternative view is this was one shy of matching a career high for most whiffs. He missed, I think, 23 bats. He was pretty locked in. The Mariners were flailing over his changeup. He didn't even use much of his slider today. Second most whiffs in his entire career, and he only went 5 2/3 innings. He's gone longer than that before. First pitch strike rate, 80%. He was still very, very much dialed in on those important fronts. And, the Colt Keith play, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later. You can't really change that scoring-wise, but kind of mentally, you could be like, well, only one of those runs was actually earned. The Tigers should have been out of the inning. Now, Skubal also then hung I think it was a changeup to Robles that allowed the 2 runs to score. And that's what he said after the game. He's like, I didn't make a pitch, so really that's on me, and we're not talking about this otherwise. I'm not at all worried about Skubal. I think especially after seeing that. He's still throwing first pitch strikes. He's still missing bats. A little more refinement to do. But even today, it wasn't necessarily perfect. It wasn't necessarily Cy Young caliber, but it was a really good outing, and the Tigers had a chance to win.
It was a changeup, just for the record there. And also, again, we're splitting hairs here. Like, you think Parker Meadows goes and gets that ball? Perhaps. And I'm not even criticizing Kreitler.
Yeah,
but it was a tough play. But also, Lund, I thought like he had a chance to. And again, tough play, not criticism at all. I think there's a stat. There's a glancing stat. I didn't get a chance to write it down, but it was something like Skubal has given up 3 home runs, in 2 starts. I think it took him 9 starts last year to give up 3 home runs. It was something along those realms. So I don't want to say that's 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's correct there. And again, this is all part of it. I feel pretty confident. I'm always gonna bet on Skubal metaphorically, like he'll figure it out. But like he did look like vintage Skubal there. In a second. All right. Well, we talked about the Colt Keith play. Like, if there was a who's had the most interesting start to the year, it might be Colt Keith, Cody. Like I just kind of had written down, like, how is Colt Keith? Like, how is Colt Keith? Because he's not hitting the ball like you would expect. And after going 0 in the first 3 games, like he's gonna have it's a little bit of a climb. It's only 3 games, but a little bit of a climb. And then he had what you could just best describe as a brain fart. I was trying to find a better way to describe it, but a brain fart there with 2 outs, fielding the slow grounder, spinning late to first, like all this stuff. That stuff happens over the course of 162 games. We all understand that. But he is like what? Almost 450 on base. Like it's just a real interest, and he has to basically change positions now for the short term. Just kind of like an interesting 6-game experience for Colt Keith there, given the lead up into the season for him.
Yeah, I said I wasn't actually worried about him after a really rough series. He was 0 for 10 in LA. He came out, and in Seattle, he was 3 for 7 and 6 walks. He has a 440 on base percentage, and he has not fully found his timing. Only, I think, one of his hits has actually been well struck. So if you're in a rut, and you're going to have ruts throughout the season, if your rut is a 440 on base percentage, you will take that, because the timing is going to come. There's still a question like how much power is he going to hit for? That's a very valid question. But Colt Keith's going to figure it out at the plate and start connecting with the baseball better than he is right now. I think that's just kind of a given. It's eventually going to click. His takes looked a lot better. His at-bats, for the most part, looked way better in Seattle. So I'm encouraged with that. I didn't really talk to him in LA, but just watching his body language, even in the clubhouse, like you could tell he kind of wore those pretty hard. And a little worried, coming off Wednesday. I'm sure he's getting some heat from the fan base. We'll just show it. Here's the play.
Because he was hopping all over the field, and the nickname stuck for Mr. Marinville. Ground ball second base. Keith a little awkward, and then a spin, and he was late on all of it. Just got to get the runner at first. He looked at.
I don't know what that was. That was weird, right?
And a hat trick of mistakes. It was a hat trick of mistakes. And that's just what it is. Did he say anything about it, or?
He did, and so in a way, if you're looking for positives, hat tip to Colt Keith. He sat there, stood tall, owned it, said, the hop kind of threw me off, and I don't know a better word for it. I panicked. He knew how many outs there were. He knew there were 2 outs. Why he did that weird turn, I have no idea, and I don't think he knows. Like he said, he panicked. He also got some criticism for not scoring on a ball to the left in the 9th. It's a tough read. We can look at this one.
2-2. On the ground to third, Moore on the charge. He comes home to get the out there. And Keith with a hard slide at the dish. 2 gone.
That was the wrong video. Never mind. Don't worry about that play. But there was a ball to left, okay? And Colt runs off the bat, and then he freezes kind of as J.P. Crawford leaves his feet. And obviously that prevented him from scoring. Arozarena is shallow in left field. I think fundamentally he probably should have not taken off. He probably should have froze, seen the ball through, and in that case, he probably gets held at third. I think because he started running, and AJ Hinch said, once you start running, you basically got to keep going. Colt said he stopped because he didn't want to get doubled up in the game. Reality is, if Crawford would have caught that ball, he's doubled up anyway. I don't know. I just wasn't too upset about that one. I think it's tough. There's not even a guarantee he scores, even if he was running the whole way. I think Joey Cora would have sent him, and then maybe it would have been a close play.
Yeah, I mean, that was a textbook, straight on single, Arozarena didn't really have to do much on that. And so, if there's a situation where you're going to get gunned, it would have been a hard hit ball to a left field, any fielder, but a corner fielder, shallow, all those elements. I think he ends up on third. That's the result you're looking for on that particular play. So all's well that ends well for that play. And then we showed the video of him. Obviously nothing he did there, but getting thrown out at home. He's okay though. That kind of situation, he has a guy kind of following him.
Oh yeah, as far as I know, he was fine. Okay. Did a good job running into the grass too. Made a difficult throw. So
yeah. So it was that was probably the more concerning thing, was whether he would get a bruised rib or something from the guy falling on him and all that stuff. So it again, overall, it's been a weird experience for Colt Keith, because you have all this stuff building up, and you're the first baseman now. And again, it's only your second season. He's a pup. And you got people being like, well, look, if you're going to have Torque on the roster, why not just play Torque at first base? Of course, that ends up happening because of Torres. We'll talk about that in a second. But Colt's got to learn how to play first base if he's going to be the first baseman. And there's only one way to learn, and that's to play it. But he's not going to be playing it here for a second, because he's got to go back to second. So there's just a lot going on. The on base, the walks are the encouraging part there, and also some of the stuff that he did at the dish. I wouldn't put that base running thing on him at all, 0%. And like I said, the defensive play there is just
a bad play.
It happens. It just happens. It happens. It happens.
Let's talk about the construction of this infield and Gleyber Torres, because when the lineup came out, Game 2 of the Mariners series, Game 1, excuse me, I chuckled to myself, because it was Torque at first, and it was Colt Keith at second, and Riley Green was in center field, and I was like, all this, and we have the same infield as last year, and all this about Riley can't play center. Riley's starting in center, second series of the season. It is funny, because in a way, I get it. People are like, when Gleyber gets back, he needs to go to third. I doubt that's going to happen. If we get to August or something, maybe. I think they signed him to play second base. He wanted to come here, but the infield kind of does feel over there, assuming Torque's hitting a little bit, with Torque at first, Colt at second, and that would make you not have to play as much Zach McKinstry or Javi Baez or whatever at third base. Again, don't think it's going to happen right away, but funny how we're now shifted. We're going to see a lot of Torque at first. We're going to see a lot of Colt at second. AJ Hinch, of course, did not commit to that being the default alignment, because they're going to mix and match and do what they do. Underrated, though. It still feels like we haven't necessarily gotten to know Gleyber Torres or really understand how he can help this team. We shouldn't underrate the fact that they just lost maybe their second best hitter other than Riley Green. Not what you want for a team that was already hurting.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time speculating on injuries, but the aspect that is standing out. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the messaging has been less clear. I feel like the messaging has been less clear than in past years, and maybe that's just a reaction to said injuries. It's not even me being they owe us anything, but it does seem like a little bit more vague, a little less sure. And that's probably the nature of these particular injuries, throwing the Parker, throwing Vierling's situation. But it's just a little bit more weird. And yeah, you're right. Now it's like you might as well not even change anything this offseason. Like or even like Parker Meadows never like learned how to hit at all, and that we're just living in that universe right now that none of that stuff like manifested at all, because it is kind of like a throwback alignment in a way. So
but the crowd that wants like a little criticism, fair, because you did have Javi Baez and Zach McKinstry hitting with the game on the line today, and like you do have these holes in your lineup, and you have reverted because of injury. Keep that in mind. This is going to look different in a month, but you have kind of reverted to last year's team, which isn't necessarily like inspiring when everyone knows you need to hit the ball a little bit better.
Right. Well, one of the hopeful positive developments, or development that could be positive based on these injuries, is that it didn't take long for Justin Henry Malloy to get called back up. Justin Henry Malloy is our latest player spotlight from FanDuel Sports Network. Use code baseball30 to get an extended trial. Jahan didn't waste any time either. Hitting the ball when he got to Seattle. I know he had the walk late, but he wasn't able to record a hit today. I want him to be the player spotlight, Cody, because I just want to see more Justin Henry Malloy, and I feel safe with him in the lineup. You're going to get a good at bat, and the potential is still untapped with him, and like as you're trying to figure out like configurations and this, that, the other thing, like as many times as you can get Justin Henry Malloy in the lineup, if you're AJ Hinch, you got to feel good about that. And like, who knows with this Gleyber situation, what the result will be, how much is Jahan going to play? Can he get some field action to make you feel a little more comfortable? I don't know. But every time he's out there, he's the guy to watch, I feel like.
Yeah. One quick note, the ninth inning made me think of, you went from being too left-handed to all of a sudden you're like almost a little too right-handed. You had no lefties on the bench to like bring in a big situation today.
Yeah.
I guess against a right-handed starter, you're not really going to leave a lefty on the bench anyway, but still it's kind of palpable. Like, oh, your pinch hit options are your backup catcher and Javi Baez. Right. Jahan, though, even though he's another right-handed bat, like, I feel a little bit better about this team with Jahan on it. That was my suspicion leaving camp, and now that he's up and he's here, he can lead off against certain pitchers. Even, he didn't have a hit in the third game of this series, but every at bat was competitive. I don't know, how it would work in the field, but I think this is a guy who deserves to be on this roster, and I think it took him no time to prove that. Getting 2 knocks and a couple walks on no sleep, literally no sleep in Seattle. First game of the series. Pretty cool.
Yeah, great story. And, a guy that's easy to root for. And, again, just plays an aesthetically pleasing game. So we'll have to, like I said, FanDuel Sports Network Player Spotlight. I want to know how they are going to use Justin Henry Malloy. That's FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. Code baseball30 for an extended free trial. All right, I feel like we kind of covered a lot there, Cody. Is there anything that we missed? Probably.
I feel like there's a lot of little stuff going on, but also a lot of big topics. So, there was a lot of ground to cover. Good news is we'll be back after the home opener.
Yes, after the home opener, and looking forward to seeing the grand old party there in downtown Detroit. It just feels like it's been so long since there's been baseball in Detroit. Probably because I'm not getting any sleep either, staying up to watch these games. Kudos to everybody
starting on the West Coast, man. Yeah.
Kudos to everybody in the Eastern Time Zone who made it work. But I'm over it, and I'm so glad to have games back in what I would consider normal time. All right, everybody, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I am at Kieran_Steckley, pod page at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. 5-star reviews, like and subscribe if you can, if you feel so inclined. and looking forward to watching a great celebration of baseball that is the home opener. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.